Hello and welcome. You're watching Arts TV Weekly News Review with me, Peter Nash. Each week we bring you the major news items from across Ethiopia and the region. The government of Ethiopia has said it regrets the recent decision by the US authorities to impose visa restrictions on Ethiopian officials. In a press release, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the decision came at a time when the Ethiopian government had been engaging constructively with the US on issues of common concern. It referenced the positive and progressive spirit with which the Ethiopian government welcomed the US Special Envoy, Mr. Jeffrey Feltman, who had extensive consultations with senior government officials, including the Prime Minister. The ministry said the US action sent a wrong signal at a time when Ethiopia is preparing to hold national elections, which have the potential to herald a new and stable political era for the country. What is even more saddening, the Foreign Ministry said, is the tendency by the US to treat the Ethiopian government on an equal footing with the TPLF, which was recently designated a terrorist organisation by the Ethiopian House of Representatives. This clearly reveals, said the ministry, the misguided understanding of the current US administration. The press release continued by stressing that any attempts by the US to meddle in Ethiopia's domestic affairs are not only inappropriate but completely unacceptable. Ethiopia, it said, should not be told how to run and manage its internal affairs. Finally, it said, if attempts to undermine the century-old bilateral ties continues unabated, the government of Ethiopia will be forced to reassess its relations with the United States. Meanwhile, Ethiopians in all walks of life, including politicians, media, ordinary citizens and Ethiopian diaspora, expressed their indignation at the US government's visa restrictions. The outrage was expressed via various online forums and petitions, which headlines such as "Take your hands off Ethiopia" specifically aimed at the US administration. On the 25th of May, this year's African Independence Day was celebrated throughout the continent. Coordinated events heralded African unity and the role Africans play in shaping the future of their continent and the wider world. Ethiopia, as a pioneering beacon of African freedom and independence struggles, prepared their own extensive Afrocentric celebrations. As a key media partner for the celebrations, Arts Television collaborated closely with the Ethiopian Ministries of Culture and Tourism and Foreign Affairs. This channel is providing a range of programs featuring content which reflects African cultural wealth and promotes the values set forth by the African Union. The program, called Africa Week, will continue for 6 consecutive days at the newly inaugurated Friendship Park at the heart of Addis Ababa. The events will focus on promoting inter-African relations and reiterating the commitment for African peace and unity. African Independence Day events also highlighted the commitment of the AU to attain Agenda 2063, which has the stated goals of economic development, strengthening cultural identity, gender equality and political independence from foreign powers. Arts TV, which prides itself on providing authentic information about the diverse cultures and rich history of Africa, is providing specially produced programs which capture many of the themes of this ambitious agenda. And now to some regional news. The departure of the long-running UN peacekeeping mission in Darfur has created a security vacuum which threatens thousands of citizens in the region. Many have fled the recent outbreaks of violence in a conflict that local Darfuris says is far from resolved. Darfur, which lies in the western region of Sudan, has seen outbreaks of violence since January, which has caused major internal displacement and loss of lives. The joint UN-AU mission had been gradually drawing down since 2018, but now with no troops on the ground, local militias are beginning to take control and spread unrest. One local leader said, "A doctor cannot just leave the patient before it recovers. We demand this mission stays until a comprehensive peace is achieved." While peacekeeping patrols have now ended, UN officials remain on the ground to wrap up the operation, which was one of the largest and costliest missions ever deployed. Exiting Darfur is not an easy process. The empty UN bases and equipment have been looted by militias, and Sudan's government are seeking control over mission assets intended for other peacekeeping forces. Officials stress that the withdrawal does not represent the end of the UN's engagement in Sudan, and that a new political mission focused on assisting the country's transition to democratic rule is now the priority. In other regional news, as part of Uganda's first national climate change bill, all government ministries, departments and agencies will now need to submit a climate change compliance certificate before funding is approved. Lawrence Songa, chairman of the Parliament's Climate Change Committee, said, "The authority is already providing government bodies with guidelines on how to integrate climate change activities and help Uganda move towards meeting their near-term climate targets." This landmark piece of legislation, backed by President Museveni, could herald a keener focus on climate change policies in the region. With multiple environmental challenges currently threatening the African continent, such as flooding in Somalia, desertification in Kenya, tropical storms in Mozambique and deforestation in Gabon, to name but a few, any move towards greener national policies would be a step in the right direction. Uganda's parliamentary bill won't be without challenges, however, especially as Uganda's overall GDP has been reduced this year by the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Nonetheless, there are high hopes that by enshrining environmental targets in law will set new precedents in the years to come. In previous legislation aimed at addressing gender equity in the country, similar funding controls was applied by Uganda's parliament in 2015. This has led to a 26% increase in gender and equity spending. It is hoped that setting similar targets for climate will have the same beneficial effects. Finally, it must be noticed that although climate change action is welcomed in Africa, the carbon emissions emitted in the continent are only a fraction of what Asia, North America and Europe produce. According to 2020 data, Africa generated less than 8% of the carbon emissions produced by Africa. And if calculated per capita, the average North American produces over 100 times more greenhouse gases than the average Ethiopian per year. Only by working together, sharing green technologies and implementing progressive global policies will climate change be adequately addressed. Released on African Independence Day, an open letter to the continent's politicians was posted by top Rwandan educationalists, highlighting the importance of teacher development and school leadership in Africa. In the letter, Marianne Kugunda and colleagues argue that the continent faces a learning crisis, and to tap into the opportunities of a rapidly changing world, Africa's young people need a relevant education which can help them develop 21st century skills. As more and more children attend school in Africa, the quality of teaching is not keeping pace with the increasing numbers of students. Girls' enrolment especially has seen a huge increase in the past 10 years, which represents a massive progressive step forward, but only if high-quality education is offered. The letter points out that too many young Africans are lacking the skills needed to thrive in the future. Young Africans are the solution to transforming the region and creating lasting economic and social change. To solve the learning crisis, it sets out a number of challenges to be faced. These include more investment, better monitoring of school attainment, prepared learners, and effective school leadership. Putting these things in place will help the continent fulfill its potential, where everyone has the opportunity to learn and to prosper. A widespread study conducted at the end of last year by Africa's CDC provided some promising news on the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine across the continent. It showed that 4 out of 5 respondents in Africa would take a COVID-19 vaccine if they deemed it to be safe and effective. Across countries, willingness to take the COVID-19 vaccine varied from 94% in Ethiopia to 59% in DRC. The Africa CDC said the findings go a long way towards the way we frame risk communication around the vaccine. However, since the vaccine doses started arriving in Africa, fewer people than expected are agreeing to take the shots. As in other countries, misinformation circulating in the media has been responsible for a lot of mistrust and suspicion. A survey found that many respondents believed that COVID-19 was a planned event by foreign actors, that people in Africa were being used as guinea pigs, or that the spread of COVID-19 was somehow linked to 5G technology. This has led thousands of vaccines reaching their expiry date without being used, as was in the case in Malawi and DRC. Susan Goldstein, Deputy Director of South African Medical Research Council, said, "People don't have the correct information, but now there is an opportunity to really educate people about vaccines, about what they are, how they work, and how very successful they've been in the past." She goes on to point out that the global north has started immunising large numbers of people against COVID-19, and that this can be used to reassure sceptical people in Africa. She said millions of doses have been given to Europe and America already. We are now in a position to communicate this more widely. And now to some sports news. Fasil Kenema Football Club this week was formally awarded the Bet King Ethiopian Premier League Cup in a ceremony held in Hawassa University Stadium. Known locally as the Emperors, the club played exemplary football all season, way ahead of the trailing pack, and became eventual champions with 4 games to spare. In the fight for second place, Ethiopia Coffee FC strengthened their chances of claiming the runners-up position by beating Hadia Hosanna Club 2-1 earlier this week. This means a draw will suffice to keep Ethiopia Coffee above third place St George, who also play their final game of the season this weekend. These will be crucial matches, as second place in the league ensures participation in next season's Confederation Cup.
A high one, Alelin goes for a stylish bicycle kick that is punched off by Mikel Samake. Looking like he had 2 options there. It is mine.
This is all from this week's news review on Africa TV. I've been Pete Nash. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.